What is up, guys? So the CW released synopses for episode 4 and 5 of Crisis on Infinite Earths. Episode 4 is Arrow Season 8, episode 8, obviously titled Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 4, and episode 5, titled Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 5, is Legends of Tomorrow, Season 5, episode 1, or it's really being counted as like a special episode, episode 0, basically, of Season 5. But they released the synopses for these episodes. The one for episode 5 literally doesn't tell us anything. All it tells us, really, is that it's the conclusion to the crossover, which is fine by me. I mean, I don't think there should be a big synopsis to Part 5 when we don't know yet what happens in Part 4, or at least we don't know fully what happens in Part 4, so that's fine. So there really isn't anything to talk about for Part 5, since it's all about just the conclusion to the crossover and that's it. But there definitely is something to talk about in Part 4, or the synopsis for Part 4. So the synopsis reads: stuck in the vanishing point, the Paragons search for a way to escape. The futility of the situation is compounded by the Flash's disappearance. However, hope appears in the form of Oliver, who reveals that he has become something else. Meanwhile, the origin stories for the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor are revealed. So I'm going to start with the ending of the synopsis, which says that the origin stories for the Monitors are being revealed, which I'm starting with because that's where the episode will begin with. The synopsis suggests that since it says meanwhile, it'll happen interwoven with the actual episode, where it'll cut between the main storyline and this storyline, but that is not the case. Mark Guggenheim said that the episode, the first 10 minutes or so, will be the origin story of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor, and it'll probably reveal where they come from, how they were created, which now in the comics incorporates their mother Perpetua, but I'm guessing they're not going to include her, because that's a whole other can of beans that they're going to have to open. That's probably, she's big enough to be her own crossover event, but regardless, we will see things like where they come from, and also Mark Guggenheim said that we're going to learn why they have the costumes and suits they have. I'm guessing the suits will end up being some sort of containment suits where they were either balls of energy like the Anti-Monitor originally was in the comics, and they have to wear these containment suits to keep them together. Or maybe I think what's more likely is that they were in a vicious battle previously, probably billions of years ago, and they were battle damaged to the point where they will die unless they wear the suits they're wearing. So regardless though, we're going to see the origin story of the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor in this episode, which is one of the most anticipating things for me in this episode, because it's so interesting, and I think the Monitor himself is a great character, and through this origin story, the Anti-Monitor could definitely become more developed and hopefully end up being a great villain. But this episode is written by Marv Wolfman, it's co-written by Marv Wolfman along with Mark Guggenheim, but Marv Wolfman was the one who actually wrote Crisis on Infinite Earths, creating characters like the Monitor, the Anti-Monitor, Pariah, and Harbinger, and all the key players of Crisis on Infinite Earths who weren't already created. But that's going to be so much better than it would be without him, because he knows what he's doing. He wrote the initial origin story, and if they just do the exact same thing in live action, it's going to be so awesome to watch. So that's something I'm very much anticipating in this episode. The first 10 minutes or so where we see the origin story of the Monitors, that's going to be really exciting. But one thing I'm hoping we're going to see in the origin story is the involvement of the Guardians of the Universe. The actual multiverse, originally in the comics, was created by a man named Krona, one of the Guardians of the Universe, and the Guardians of the Universe are the people who later would create the Green Lantern Corps. But one of them, Krona, who turned out to be like an evil one, looked at the dawn of time, which made something go wrong, which is also hinted at being the exact same thing in Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1, when the Monitor said that the universe was just one until it expanded to an infinite multitude, or whatever he said, and it's probably going to be the same thing here, and I'm hoping they involve the Guardians of the Universe as well as Krona, not only because that's exactly what happened in the comics, but also that would expand this universe as a DC universe so much more. And I'm also hoping it happens from Earth 1, because that is Earth 1. It should be like the center, like the main universe in the multiverse, and that was the original one. Regardless though, just like the inclusion of the Guardians of the Universe with the rest of the Green Lantern Corps, or at least hinting at the Green Lantern Corps' further existence, that is something they definitely should incorporate into this storyline, and I'm guessing they will, considering Marv Wolfman is writing this, and he created the original origin story, which involved Krona, as well as the Guardians of the Universe. But anyway, getting past the first 10 minutes, which is the origin story of the Monitors, we have the storyline with the Paragons stuck in the vanishing point, the only 7 beings in the whole multiverse aside from the Anti-Monitor and Oliver Queen himself, and I'm also guessing beings who are outside of the multiverse, fifth dimensional beings, God, probably, even Lucifer is probably still alive. Regardless though, we have the Paragons stuck in the vanishing point where there's really nothing to do. The Anti-Monitor is not there. He's at the dawn of time, as we learned from the trailer breakdown, now, or the trailer, where Oliver says the Anti-Monitor is at the dawn of time, so they're just stuck there doing nothing. But then what furthers the plot, as we see in the synopsis, is that Barry disappears. It says the Flash disappears, which is obviously a callback to the newspaper where it says the Flash disappears, which it does seem like they replaced Barry with Earth 90 Barry, but at least in this synopsis there is another Flash disappearance, which also connects to the original Crisis, in which Barry died, sacrificed himself to save the multiverse, but he didn't actually die. He went to the Speed Force, where he spent like 2 decades, or a little over 2 decades actually, in the Speed Force, and there's going to be something similar here. There's not going to be any sacrificing of Barry's life. He's not going to be spending 20 years in the Speed Force, but he is going to be going into the Speed Force, as we see in the trailer, where he meets Oliver. For those of you who don't know, the Spectre in the comics is a man named Jim Corrigan, although it has been other people, specifically a man named Aztec. But Jim Corrigan, or the Spectre, is basically a servant of God, who in this universe is called the Presence, or in this multiverse, in DC Comics, God is called the Presence, and the Spectre is a servant of him, or at least he's divine, he's created by him, but he's also one of the most powerful beings in the multiverse. You see in the comics, he's one of the most powerful beings when it comes to fighting the Anti-Monitor, and that's clear that's what they're doing here. They made Oliver the Spectre, and this is something I've mentioned in previous videos, but they made Oliver the Spectre specifically to make him powerful enough. He's the most important character in the entire multiverse. The whole multiverse is named after him, so they made him powerful enough to be able to stop the threat and save the multiverse and defeat the Anti-Monitor. But also, it fits very nicely into the theme of Arrow, the whole concept of Arrow. While it wouldn't really fit the comics, for Oliver Queen, the Green Arrow, to all of a sudden become the Spectre and to be the most powerful being in the multiverse and defeat the Anti-Monitor, it wouldn't really fit as well, considering also he's not as important as he is in the Arrowverse. It's not like the whole multiverse is named after him. It's actually named after the comics where Batman originated, which is Detective Comics, so it would make more sense for it to be Batman in that universe or in that multiverse. But here, it does make a lot of sense, not only because he is very important, but also how they phrase it with him becoming something else. That's something he's been saying in literally every episode of Arrow ever in the beginning, where he's become something else. First, something else he became was the Hood, then the Arrow, then Al Sahim, then the Green Arrow, briefly also in May 4, 5, and 7, then being back to being the Green Arrow. But the Green Arrow is not the final stage of who he's becoming. It's the Spectre. He's becoming someone else. He's becoming something else, which fits in both those ways. His importance in the Arrowverse, the way it fits with the theme of Arrow, with Oliver becoming someone else, becoming something else. But also a third, a less important thing, is that the Spectre bears a physical resemblance to the Green Arrow, at least the Arrowverse's version of the Green Arrow, which the Arrowverse incorporated a hood, which the comics didn't have until Arrow came around, and that's what the Spectre has. He wears a green hood, so there's those 3 things. He bears a physical resemblance, Oliver's importance makes a lot of sense to make him the most powerful superhero, but also he is becoming someone else. Something else. So that's it for the synopsis breakdown, but there is one more thing I wanted to talk about. This image that Stephen Amell tweeted of Oliver and Kara in their previous season costumes. Oliver in his season 5 costume, which he wore until season 7, while Kara is in her season 1 costume, which she wore until season 4, but it's very clearly not from anything in the past. It's from this new crossover. You could tell based off the fact that not only was it confirmed that they're going to shoot scenes in this place, the Hall of Justice, but also the haircuts are very clearly from this crossover, and this is not a shot we've ever seen before. But that does raise the question, why are they shooting scenes that look like they're from Invasion? Because this is clearly like, it looks like it's from Invasion, from the costumes, which these 2 characters have had these 2 costumes at the same time in Invasion and Crisis on Earth X, but they didn't use the Hall of Justice in Crisis on Earth X, so this is Invasion. But why are they in Invasion? Why are they on the Invasion set? Well, it is possible that the last 2 parts of Crisis on Earth will be even more similar to Endgame than we initially expected, as it did seem that part 1, 2, and 3 were going to be basically the Infinity War of the Arrowverse, but not nearly as much as we could have expected, as part 3's cliffhanger was just as insane as Infinity War's cliffhanger. And it seems like these next 2 parts will be more similar to Endgame, as well as there might be some sort of time travel involved. Now, the actual just having time travel is not new, it's not unexpected, as there's the Dawn of Time, they're going to the Dawn of Time, so obviously there would be time travel there, but it does seem to me that there will be more time travel than initially expected, but specifically the same time travel kind of that they did in Endgame. Instead of just going back to the Dawn of Time or going back to any sort of thing like that, they're going to be going back to previous events in the Arrowverse to either get information, get some sort of item, or change events, or something like that. I'm guessing Oliver and Kara, along with the Flash and all the rest of the Paragons, are going to be going back to previous crossovers. I'm gonna guess specifically Crisis on Earth X and Elseworld and Invasion, maybe Elseworld, maybe Heroes Join Forces, maybe also more particularly Flash versus Arrow. But I do think Invasion, and obviously Invasion is basically confirmed, but I do think since it's a Crisis, also Crisis on Earth X, and it deals with the multiverse, so I do think that one, they're going to go back to that crossover in some way. But it does seem like the characters may be split off into groups, one of which is Kara and Oliver, will be going back to previous crossovers for some reason or another, or at least previous events in the Arrowverse, and at the very least, Invasion for some reason. Really, the only other option of that is this is an alternate universe, maybe, where the multiverse is restored, and this is a universe where they're still using the Hall of Justice, potentially as the Justice League, or maybe this is some sort of other thing. But I do think that what we're seeing here is most likely an Endgame-style time travel heist or something like that, where they go to previous events in the Arrowverse and probably crossovers. So anyway, that's it for this video. Let me know your thoughts on everything I talked about in the comments down below. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching.